Good morning. My name is Roger Winslow. I'm the Vice President of the Deputy Sheriff's Association, which represents the men and women that you see on the streets and the courts of our county. On December 29th of 2016, Sheriff Smith presented a written plan to address staffing shortages affecting our members. Today, the DSA is providing a report showing the effect of that plan. The DSA stands today at 95 vacancies, or 17% understaffed. In addition to that, another 17 are injured or ill, which increases our understaffing to about 21%. The reasons for employment separations changed significantly in 2017, seeing a doubling of resignations, accounting for 71% of all those that left last year. We've also seen significant changes in retention rates and failures in the academy, with Class 20 being the first to have the essentially no, you shall not fail them in the academy. We're seeing failure rates or only retentions about 72%. A lot more in this report I'd like you to review, and I have provided you all a copy of it. But essentially, retention continues to increase with no response from Sheriff Smith.
Thank you very much.
Of the Mercury on Sunday.
Scott Largent, to be followed by Pamela Noodleman, to be followed by Allison Brunner. Mr. Largent, come on up, to be followed by Olivia Ortiz.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I was enjoying the paper on Sunday, which was really great. I'm not too sure if you guys are keeping caught up on this stuff about Lori Smith. What I noticed on page 8 of the Mercury, that the jail complaint form from right when Lori came into office, I noticed that it was actually typed. So there was a time when we typed up our jail complaints, and the really neat thing is there's that timestamp. The timestamp that was eliminated after she came into office to wreck the Sheriff's Department. So we did have that tool. So maybe when she's going in there and disposing of evidence in internal affairs, maybe she took the damn timestamp too, along with my jail complaint video, along with the video being harassed at my grandma and grandpa's house, along with Victoria's claim, along with Susan's claim. This thing's a goddamn failure. And I hope you guys start reading the paper. And I did send a nice little letter. There's only 4 more months that they can prosecute the guards that hurt me. Please help me and make the call to John Chase and Jeff Rosen. Thank you.
Thank you. Pamela Noodle, then Ladoris Cordell, and then John Hirakawa, and then Christine Clifford, and then Jose Valle. Mr. Largent?
Hi. 2 minutes on that. Oh, I believe it's 2 minutes. Oh, if you want to give me 3, that's okay. I'm sure I could fill it up here. You know, I was perusing through the agenda on the consent calendar, and I got to item number 76, which I've kind of been throughout the process of having somebody, kind of in here to regulate our corrupt Sheriff's Department. I'm still trying to file these complaints. I'm really trying to file these complaints, and we're getting down to the wire right now to be able to prosecute the guards that hurt me. So I hope you guys got my letter. I hope maybe there's something you guys can do. I figure 800 times of coming here, maybe 801 might be my lucky number. I feel really bad for Pam Noodleman up here. She can't go to internal affairs and complain about how the Sheriff's Department was treating her in court. And if she was able to do that, Lori Smith would have already disposed of the video. Same thing she did with Susan Bassey, destroyed footage within 2 weeks. Same thing she's done with me when I brought videos in here. Maybe the proactive thing, and I don't mean to really rag on you, Mike, when I brought in those videos to the Justice and Public Safety Committee, they weren't just for Lori Smith. I brought copies of those videos in so you could take a look at how my grandmother was being harassed. So you could take a look how I was being treated in my front yard by sheriff's deputies. And maybe you could follow up with that. Maybe you could make that call, run into Lori in the hallway and say, hey, Scott kind of brought in these videos. It doesn't look right. Did you launch an internal affairs complaint? Supervisor Chavez, we met after a meeting. Remember, we kind of sat in the back over there, and you had told me you would reach out to Lori Smith, reach out to Carl. You would find out about how the Los Gatos police witnessed me being beat in the jail there. I would have appreciated if you were the one that made the call, not your staff, because when it's coming from you, maybe it can kind of light fires underneath her. I know Lori's absolutely corrupt. She's throwing out every video, every jail complaint, that internal affairs is a joke down the street. I'm just trying to figure out what type of power you people really have. We got to start cutting things off to the sheriff. She's like a big spoiled child that just keeps wrecking everything. So we can't pull, Department of Corrections, pull it from her. The light rail contract, pull it from her. Okay, the court system they can't even run right now and they're harassing people, pull it from her. Anything that shows up on this agenda, stop giving her more money. When is it going to stop? And I'm just very, very, very frustrated. My concerns should have been addressed, and they're not at all. Video and evidence, it's all being destroyed. It's upsetting. And you guys know how to contact the Department of Justice? This oversight crap that you're putting in place is just going to be a big Band-Aid. The jail matrix of disillusion, Joe. I think it's a joke.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Lodoris Cordell, followed by John Hirakawa, and I do stand corrected. I misspoke apparently by saying 3 minutes when it is 2 minutes. My apologies to the speakers who were gearing up for 3. The rules provide for 2. So thank you for understanding that. I'm going to wait just a minute while we reset the clock, and it's set for 2, and I'm going to say welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Lodoris Cordell, former chair of the Blue Ribbon Commission that evaluated the custodial operations of our jails in the aftermath of the murder of Michael Tyree by 3 correctional officers in 2015. I'm here to address item 56 on the consent calendar, something I will call the GAR report, G-A-R. In my view, the GAR report is a puff piece commissioned by Sheriff Smith at a cost to taxpayers of $75,000. While the glaring problems with the report are too numerous to list, I find most disturbing the report's conclusion that independent civilian oversight of the jails is not warranted, when in fact oversight was unanimously recommended by the Commission. The sheriff has always opposed independent civilian oversight of the jails, and this report simply pushes her agenda. Please reject this report. Do not adopt it, and go a step further. Require Sheriff Smith to reimburse us taxpayers the $75,000 she has wasted on this useless document. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next speaker is John Hirakawa. Mr. Hirakawa, welcome.
Good afternoon, Board. Retired Under Sheriff John Hirakawa. After rereading the GAR report, I've come to the conclusion that the report deflects from the original January 2017 board referral for a climate survey of the inmates and staff and appears to be nothing more than a propaganda material for Lori Smith's re-election campaign. On page 39, the report states, one of the most significant and meaningful things Sheriff Smith has done was to create the multi-service deputies. Smith was not involved or engaged with this concept or had anything to do with the written proposal or championing the proposal against opposition. Crediting Smith for this innovative approach seems disingenuous and staged. The report makes no reference to another significant death, Mr. Edward Davis Jr., who was murdered in the Elmwood Jail in May of 2017. Why would we move away from the original climate survey consultant, Moscone, Embledge, and Otis, which provided the Blue Ribbon Commission with a critical analysis of the inmates' concerns? Embledge is the logical choice to conduct this follow-up climate survey. I'm deeply troubled by the report's conclusion that tasers can be a valuable tool in our jails. Additionally, I find it suspect that the consultant recommended delaying independent oversight until the jail reforms were in place, when it is clear that the board and the community need this to successfully implement reforms. I recommend the board challenge the conclusions of this report, not accept it, and ask how our tax dollars could have been spent on this political piece. Please do not allow Lori Smith's lack of integrity influence your judgment. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christine Clifford, who will be followed by Jose Valle, and I believe that's the last card I have under consent calendar.
Hi, I'm Christine Clifford with PACT and Silicon Valley Debug. There have been 2 hunger strikes in our jails over the last 2 years, protesting, among other things, conditions, lack of programs, classification, and the grievance system. I want to make sure you have a copy of a current letter sent to the Sheriff's Administration informing them that the detainees in Main Jail North plan to go on yet another voluntary hunger strike on April 15th to protest those same issues and lack of clear policies for those housed in administrative segregation or solitary. Participation is totally voluntary, and many detainees from various floors, all classifications, races, ages, and security levels have indicated they will support this action. So please don't mistake this for a gang activity or assume that they can stand to lose some weight. People who are willing to starve themselves do not do so because things are going well for them. They do so because they feel they have no other way to be heard or to have their issues resolved. They do so because they feel they have exhausted all other options and are otherwise invisible. None of this is reflected in the report you are receiving. Unfortunately, this report has little data or interviews with detainees or their families. There are hundreds of detainees who have been in our jails for in excess of 3 years. Talk to them. They are the ones with the most reliable sources of information on how reforms are or are not progressing. The culture presented in these findings continue to reflect that jail staff holds beliefs that the detainees and the agenda of groups who try to represent them are manipulative, have few legitimate concerns, and should not be taken as seriously as input from staff. This is what culture change means. This is what is sought through reform, evidence that the changes have positive impact on the daily lives of those inside. All groups want their agenda to be heard, and I do not for a moment minimize the need to be heard from law enforcement or the CPOA, or to minimize the support of their organizations, but to imply that the voices of one group has more merit than others is not reflective of our county's values, concerns, or mission for measurable change. The author doesn't also seem to be aware that the county's strong commitment is to oversight, not only of the Sheriff's Department, but of any agency in our county that impacts the day-to-day life of detainees.
Thank you for your comments. Jose Valle.
Hi, my name's Jose Valle with Silicon Valley Debug. In response to the GAR report, I have submitted 3 packets of unresolved grievances, dispositions, and appeals from housing units 4C, 5C, and 7A in our Santa Clara County main jail. Within each packet details patterns of unresolved issues pertaining to that specific housing unit and are reflected throughout the jail. Each packet is organized in depth, includes a cover letter, and is separated by topics including out of cell time, harassment and sexual harassment, rat infestation, classification, group punishment, staff culture, and medical. These packets were prepared by the prisoners currently housed in our jail and are set to go on their 3rd hunger strike since 2016. The hunger strike begins on April 15th. Although these issues are currently in litigation, Chavez versus Santa Clara County, it is not enough for the prisoners inside and their families to wait for a settlement. As a quick overview, there seems to be some conflict. Amy Lee, who is in charge of grievances, is also the president of the union. Although I don't want to make this about the sheriff, just the fact that the sheriff confiscated evidence from internal affairs in 1992 raises some additional concerns of integrity. And I'd like for everyone to please go through the 3 packets. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Let me confirm with the clerk that we have no other speakers under the consent calendar.